Hello. Thank you for joining us this evening with us at the Hangout. We're talking about what it's like being a deaf cancer survivor. And before we move on, I wanted to quickly introduce each of us and give an image description. I'm Melissa Yingst. I have light brown skin, Latino with dark hair and a bun on the side with gold hoop earrings and a watch on. I'm also in front of a white geometric background. So I'm going to turn it over to the three of you. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and do an image description. All right, we could start with Alok.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alok Doshi. I'm a man who's Indian with glasses and a beard and black hair. I have a black shirt on. My background right now is blurred. And who else would like to introduce themselves? Kat?
All right, hi, my name is Kathleen, but I go by Kat for short. I have brown wavy hair, shoulder length, a black tank top, and I have a white background. All right, I'm going to turn it over.
Hi, this is Melanie. This is my sign name, M around the face. I have tan skin and gray hair. I'm wearing a gray t-shirt, and in the background, it's blurred. I'm in the dressing room in the theater at the moment.
Oh, that's cool. Well, thank you to the three of you. This is Melissa signing. What I wanted to discuss tonight was your journey that you had in with surviving cancer and what that experience was like for you as a deaf person. And there are different layers to this conversation. So I look forward to really digging down and discussing all of those layers with three of you. To start off, I wanted to ask all three of you what type of cancer you had experienced and when. And of course, if you don't mind, making a couple comments when you first got that diagnosis. So, whoever wants to start, you can add your comments. I'll open it up. I'll start with Alok.
Okay, hello everyone. Yes, I was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2015. So that's when I had a big surgery to remove the colon cancer. And then I went through chemotherapy treatment for 7 months. And I had a lot of complications from that. It caused blood clots. I had a pulmonary embolism. I ended up in the CCU critical care unit for 6 weeks. If you could see my scar, it's on my throat still. After that, I was lucky to survive. I almost died from it. And then through more research, we had to do CAT scans periodically. 2 years later, it came back. It had metastasized from my colon to my lung, to one lung. So I had two surgeries 1 year apart on my lung to remove it. I have 1/4 of my lung gone at this time. But since then, it's been 3 years almost, and I don't like to say gone, but there's no evidence of sickness. And it starts to where you have to accept life with your diagnosis. We can expand upon that later.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Kat? Yes, this is Kat speaking. I got breast cancer stage 4, and that happened in 2011 when I was first diagnosed. And then I was diagnosed again in 2019 in the same place is when it came back. And the first time I got it, they started aggressive chemotherapy. And it was very aggressive the first time. And when they finished that treatment, the doctor had said, well, really, what had happened, if I could go back and start over again, it just wasn't a great interpreter. And they were telling me what the doctor was explaining to me, or they were interpreting it. And I looked at my mom and I could see it. And then she said, cancer free. And I was like, oh, I felt so good when I saw that. I said, oh, I'm finally cancer free. I mean, I was coming from stage 4 to being cancer free. And so I got home and I started texting my family, letting everyone know I was cancer free. And then my family had called my mom and they were so excited. And my mom said, no, she's not cancer free. She's in remission because my cancer had spread to my chest and to my upper chest and to my pelvic area, which is why it was stage 4. And the next day, I confronted that interpreter and I asked, why did you say I'm cancer free? Because I thought I was cancer free when you interpreted that. And they said, oh, I couldn't think of the sign for remission.
Oh,
And that's two different things, right?
wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I had high hopes when I got that message, and it wasn't the case.
My gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And how did you feel when you first got the diagnosis for breast cancer?
Oh, it was really tough because, when I first found out, I thought, me at 31, how can I get cancer? And then I realized, it could have been genetic, something in my family. You really have to focus on yourself, knowing that you're going to war with the cancer and you're going to have to beat it. So you have to think as positively as you can that you're going to beat it. If you don't, if you're cynical about it, you're going to lose. And so whenever I found out, I said, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it now. I want to beat it now.
That's a good way of putting it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kat. And Milani? Yes, most of the comments that Kat made or during their introductions, back when I was 19 or 20 years old, I entered Gallaudet University as a freshman and I got the diagnosis in April or May. I had been sick since October, November, and I thought it was just a cough. I thought I would heal. It was on and off. And then I got a fever periodically during the spring semester. By the end of the semester, I left to go back home. I had lost a lot of weight. My mother came to visit me and noticed something was wrong. I was coughing. I felt awful. They brought me to the emergency room and they found that I had Hodgkinson's disease. So luckily, it was caught early and I was 20 at the time. So that was in May. I stayed in the hospital for 3 weeks after that, getting chemotherapy immediately. Luckily, my mom works in the hospital and had a network with all the doctors and nurses and provided the best care for me, fortunately. Throughout chemotherapy, it was 12 total treatments every 2 weeks. And then I went to radiation for 5 weeks. Afterwards, I was in remission and that ended December 31st. So it was May until October, November with chemotherapy, and then radiation for 5 weeks after that. And then December, it went down until the new year. And my doctor said you could go back to school. I was shocked. I was bald at the time. I was growing my hair back. I was going back as a full-time student, and I had recovered fully. At that time, I was young and I had just graduated out of high school and gotten into college when I was diagnosed. I was completely taken aback. I had seen people that had recovered from cancer, some people had passed away, but I had never expected it to happen to me. And also in the hospital, there was no access to get interpreters. That was back in 1996, 1997.
Mm,
Actually, it was quite a while ago.
hmm.
Luckily, my family provided me a lot of support. My siblings helped a lot. And of course, all my friends who lived in New York City would come visit me and they were with me the whole way. I hadn't ever gone to a cancer support group, but I still was going up and down. I focused on my health. And after I had recovered, I went back to Gallaudet University immediately and I started seeing mental health counseling while I went back to school at Gallaudet. Of course, I did have 3 month checkups. And then it went to 6 month checkups. And then after that, it's been annual checkups for more than 20 years now. Wow, yeah, I guess 25 years altogether. I've been in remission.
Oh, good for you.
That's right. And I had met Kat when I was a student and I got sick with
Mm,
cancer. And I also met Melissa, and
yeah.
I've been in remission ever since then. And I've met a lot of people that had gotten sick. And I just learned that Alec had gotten sick as well. It's surprising to me that I'm not alone. I am thankful. I'm still grateful. Even though I had a struggle in my life, I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, this is Melissa. Thank you for sharing. There are so many layers to what the three of you have just mentioned. And I do have some follow up questions that I wanted to add to that. But wow, from what I'm seeing in this conversation, when you're first confronted with the cancer diagnosis, you're feeling like, what? Is this me? And the truth is, anyone can get cancer at any time in their lives, which is why this conversation is so important because this is something that the community should be invested in for ourselves as well as to support others too. Just so that way people who are watching can understand clearly what the difference is between chemo as well as radiation, because those are two different things. If one of you don't mind elaborating on the difference between the both of those. Yes, Melanie. So, so chemotherapy is responsible to kill all types of cells. So cancerous cells all over your body from head to toe. So it's going to kill everything just to make sure that it's out of your body. But what radiation does is it just focuses on the cancerous tumor. It'll shrink it down. So you're not going to need to have the chemo. It's just going to shrink it down until it goes away. So that's the differences between the both of them.
Thank you for explaining that. I have two more questions. During that time when you were struggling with cancer treatments, what helped you stay optimistic? Like Melanie had described, you had a good support system. So, how did you get to that point where you're in the mindset of you're going to war with cancer? If you don't mind to expand on what coping strategies you used to keep a positive mindset. I know it's easy for people to say or to sign, hey, think positive, but it's really not that easy in practice. So, what did you do to support yourselves? Alec here. Yes, I think friends and family are important, but with my background, I had gone into healthcare management. I used to work for NIH, the National Institute for Health. I had met a lot of cancer researchers, and I wanted to absorb that knowledge that I'd already seen before my diagnosis. I was working with Obamacare. That was my job, and I had access to resources, friends who are doctors, coworkers of mine. My best friend, who is not deaf, he is a director of a biomedical company, and I was very lucky to have that. And I was under the John Hopkins system here in Washington, D.C., which is the top notch hospital system. They had interpreters ready to explain everything clearly.
Oh, you're so fortunate.
Yes. And when I was in the ICU, in the CCU, I would sign while I was sleeping. I wouldn't be understood. And so they had to contact an interpreter, and they said that they had limited hours. So the head of the critical care unit got upset and said, no, I want someone here 24/7.
Hmm.
And they
Wow.
told me that later. I said, wow. I was high on the medication and I would be signing, and the interpreter would tell the doctor what I
Mm,
was signing to help change my dosage. So there
mm.
were many reasons, but I'm very fortunate that I had coping skills and different experiences that made me think that I have to attack this one step at a time, do research now and get emotional later. I would go back and forth between the two. I was living alone at the time. I moved back in with my parents during the chemotherapy. They took care of me. And that was my experience.
This is Kat speaking. For me, family and friends and coworkers supported me the whole way, but I realized that I was the one that had to do the fighting, not them. So I had to really think positively, and I had to realize that life is just short. And Yeah, really, the first time I got it, the doctor told me it's stage 4. I was already mad. I wanted to get it over with. I just wanted to set some goals. And my goal at the time really was just to finish chemo and radiation. I didn't have radiation the first time. I had chemo, and then my parents had decided, hey, if you beat this, then maybe we'll go to someone. And I said, okay, that's fine. I will go somewhere. And I said, fine, let's go to Hawaii. And I said, okay, if you beat it, we'll go to Hawaii. So that was my goal. I wanted to beat it. And then the second time, I remember seeing my mom cry. Well, for the first time, she was bawling. And I told her, I said, Mom, I got this. I'm going to beat this. And it's going to be 2-0. It's going to be.
Wow.
She didn't realize it at the time. It just, I had to teach her that I could do it. I could beat it. It's just, it's you gotta, you can only think positive, and it's really tough. I'm telling you, it's
Right.
so tough. I mean, there's some days that you're going to think, I can't do it. I just can't. And if you think that way, you won't. So you're going to have to stay positive and think positive, and you have to set that goal of what you want to do. You could do it. That's my opinion.
Always a lot. It's always more internal than external.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is Malini here. Luckily, you two did have access to resources through the internet, people, everything was ready in the contemporary setting. But compared to my experience in 1996, 1997, 1998, there hadn't been a lot of research in that field yet. But with Hodgkin's disease, at that time, it had an 85% rate of recovery. And the other one had 30% rate. But now the Hodgkin's disease is 100% recovery rate compared to my time.
Yeah.
So that is where I feel I'm lucky that my family, I have a sister, they were both in high school at the time, and I was struggling for 12 weeks, having to go every 2 weeks to chemotherapy. That was the hardest part. For the first week, you have a crash. Then the second time, it's a bit better. You think you're okay. The third week, you crash again. You go back and forth, good and bad. So the psychological effect creates a lot of mood swings. The first week, you bear through it. Then the second, third, fourth week, then the seventh chemotherapy again. You have to keep going until you have 12. I felt like quitting, but I thought, no. And I thought, if I die, what would happen to my family? What would happen to my two sisters in high school? So I couldn't quit. I decided, what would happen to the rest of us? That's what scared me. And I fought through, and of course, if I did pass away, it would have a negative impact on the whole community. Everybody would be affected by it. So I thought, that's it. I'm going to fight through this. And my sister would joke and said, be patient. You know, cancer is like a cockroach. You got to beat it 1,000 times till it's dead. And I accepted her joke. I said, yes, that's right. And my other sister, Leilani, had given me some coping skills with my mood swings. I would be throwing up, getting headaches, fatigue, diarrhea. I would have a mouth condition, and my muscles would feel sore. It was during the summertime. I was hot. It was a real struggle. But ironically, my period cycle stayed the same. It was on time every
Interesting.
month. Yeah. So with my mood swings going back and forth, my skin was very sensitive. You can't go out in the sun during the summertime. You have to have a hat. And by that time, I had no hair on my body. My weight had diminished. I was very skinny. I was trying to eat, but I would throw it up. The second week, I'd be better. I would eat more and gain the weight to meet their criteria to get the second or the next treatment of chemotherapy. You have to have enough white blood cells. And if you have the right amount, then you can be given the next treatment. If not, you get it delayed. And I didn't want it delayed.
Same.
So I went ahead and got a shot to help me build up my white blood cells faster. And then I would be able to get chemotherapy, because chemotherapy is like bleach. It kills
Oh,
everything. So after that, you're able to grow fresh cells just like a newborn baby. You build up your immune system again. It's really fascinating and amazing. Luckily, I had my family, and my sister Leilani gave me a water painting. I would go out on my bicycle. I would do things to keep me busy. It was nice being in the city at that time to keep me busy. I didn't think negatively. I was determined. It was a struggle, but once you get through it, you feel so good. And I wanted to show the world that I was a survivor.
you can
And
do it.
yes, and that kind of positive outlook has a good impact on everybody involved. You have to have stamina
Mm,
to last.
and strength. Yes. This is Melissa speaking. From the three of you, there are a lot of strength and optimism, and that's gotten the three of you through these tough times. I've also had a conversation with some other cancer survivors, and what I've noticed is that there are many of them out there who have this glow about them. There's this happiness, just like they have this new outlook on life, realizing new things about their life and just feeling more positive and more grateful and just have this radiance about them. And they've even told me themselves they can't even describe this feeling. It's just this internal feeling of gratitude. And I remember thinking that was so beautiful when they told me this. So I wanted to ask the three of you. So before it happened and then after, what changed for you regarding your outlook on life? This is Malini. So comparing, if let's a look went through adulthood and I was just entering my adult stage. I was in my 20s, and that's during the time I was in college. I ended up leaving. I went back to Gallaudet and I started getting angry. I was angry. I was very angry because inside it hurt me to see so many people taking advantage, taking life for granted. I saw people partying and doing drugs and drinking in college, and I didn't even understand the concept of not even appreciating life. And that was my perspective at the time. I was angry and I had to go see a counselor just for my mental health. And I was depressed at the time too. And fortunately, I met a few cancer survivors at the time, and they come up to me and they said, it's normal to feel angry because you've already been through all of this. You've seen this and you've seen what you didn't deserve it, and that's the philosophy behind how you're feeling. So when I felt that anger, I knew I had to deal with it, and after talking to them I started learning how to manage it. But I appreciate life more. I do. And I realize, I just now at the time, I wanted to tell all the other students, I would remind them, but then I said, you know what? I just got to do my thing. I just got to be on my own. And at the same time, I am grateful. I've traveled so much, and I graduated from college, and my goal was just to get out there and do as much as I can. And I can't stand those other people who are egotistical and everything. That was back then. But over the years, I've seen them again, and they've all had their own journey and they've all grown so much. And I know earlier I felt older. I didn't realize that at the time, but it impacted me getting it at an early age. I was in my 20s. And so then I realized that over time, everyone's on their own journey. And so comparing to the different experiences that everyone has had. So if you got cancer during adulthood, or you're in the middle of your career and you're struggling and you already have a network already established. But during the time when I was young, I know a lot of people were complaining, and I was just focused at the time. I just knew I had to keep going. I couldn't deal with the other people anymore. And so I just knew I couldn't tell him what to do. And that was my perspective at the time. But I'm grateful still to this day, even though I'm older, I'm even much more grateful. But I'm seeing people pass away, of course. And I'm thinking we have the best medical support and providers. And I just realized that I was just lucky. That's all you can say. I just think about it and I just think I was lucky. And I still think that way.
Very lucky. That's powerful. Yeah, as a college student, and you come back and you're angry at
Yeah.
everybody else who doesn't get it. It's valid, very valid. And Alok and Kat, do you have any perspective on life that's changed from before and after? Yes, I was 31. I still lived in a mobile home and I was still very active. And then when I got cancer, I think that it really destroyed my spirit. And the same as you, Melanie, you were angry. I was too. And then I couldn't live in the mobile home
Couldn't
anymore.
play softball.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't play softball anymore because I had gotten sick and they told me I couldn't play softball because if I get hit on my arm, then it would blow up and get swollen. So I felt limited. I felt it wasn't fair, but I have to look at it a different way, that you have other things to do. So what? You can't play softball? Maybe you can play golf or go swimming. I wanted to focus on how I spend my time, on the things that make me happy. And it's sad to say, but prefer, I feel like they don't understand when you're sick, but they still stand by you. And I appreciate that. And it's funny, Milani was talking about her period. I haven't had my period since 2011. Before the cancer happened, I hated my period. I had really awful cramps, and now I don't have any. I feel great all the time. I can walk around and I'm fine.
Oh, you gotta look on the bright side. This is Melissa. That's good. Yes, Alok. This is Alok speaking. Before cancer, I worked for the Obama administrative on the healthcare gov, and it was a huge newspaper every day. And I was just in the middle of all the action from beginning to end. And so it was like ambitious for me. I had to try to think about moving up. I wanted to go to a technical company, Amazon, SAS. I was thinking about working there and all of this. And then it just it hit and it put everything on pause. And I was thinking, okay, all right, I just got to focus on this right now. And I got to take this one day at a time. And the worst part was, well, maybe the turning point was when the pulmonary embolism hit. And I was thinking, because it's not always perfect. It can cause a lot of side effects. It could spread. And so if I waited 2 days, they were saying I could have died. And luckily, I went to the emergency room right away. They caught it. They took me to an ambulance to the hospital. I had surgery on my heart right away. And so all of that happened. And then I lost feeling in my leg after that happened. And I had to relearn how to walk because I had nerve damage. And so I started going to rehab to learn how to walk. And that forced me to live one day at a time, one step at a time as I was recovering. And then I started gaining my appetite because I lost 30 pounds at the time. So slowly my appetite started coming back. And then I got used to that pace. And I don't think of the future much anymore. My ambition is not to worry 5 or 10 years down the line, it's to think about now. I'm even talking about early retirement because I know some of my friends they've already heard me talk about this. And I'm thinking maybe in the fall I can retire early. I have plenty of money. And so maybe I could start my own business and do my own things. And so everything has shifted. And my current job is I'm the executive manager for a creative design agency. And I used to work as a programming manager. It was more logical, and now I'm doing more of a creative side, and it doesn't happen overnight. Change happens over time. So it's your life, your friends. It's you thinking about your friends, your good friends. You get together, you're having a good time, you're just drinking together, and that's all I need. Traveling.
New outlook.
Yes, yes. And one last thing, right? We've been experiencing the pandemic for the past 2 years. It's how you felt before, right? And now everyone understands what we've been going through, right?
Everyone's trying to be very careful. That's right. Malini? Yes, this is Malini. When I went into remission at 21, after that, I'm 46. I just had a birthday last week.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Looking back from when I was 20 to now when I'm 46, I've had so many accomplishments in my life. I'm very proud and I'm grateful that I'm not selfish and I didn't quit chemotherapy. I went through until the end, and in remission, I earned a lot of rewarding experiences for the rest of my life until now. Wow, I am blessed big time. So from COVID, people were all worried about it. And I thought, you have to learn to take care of yourself well. Check in with your health, check in with your immune system. Make sure you follow those rules, exercise, eat well, sleep well, and you'll be fine. It's all about your mental health and your physical health as well. You have to focus on taking care of yourself. And I'm grateful because I've seen people who were complaining, and I was telling them, just calm down and think about this. You got it. And it's going to be okay because we are all human. And I have to tell others, think about people in the Ukraine going through a war right now, even worse than a 4-year pandemic. So that to me is, you have to be sensitive to those situations when they come up. I'm grateful. I'm still grateful. And right now I'm about to perform in Shakespeare in the Park. I'm excited.
Wow.
Yes, there's big things like that that have happened in my life. From when I was 20, it was hard, but I went through it and it was worth it. The chemo, the medicine, the radiation. We're blessed to have these resources and doctors to provide wonderful care for the community and the deaf community, and to have access to interpreters and information. It means the world.
This is Melissa. Yes, wow. I'm sad that our time is up. There's so many more things I want to ask all of you, but I wanted to thank the three of you for joining us tonight. And I wanted to wrap up with one last short question. What is one piece of advice you would give to somebody who may have found out that they have cancer or any other life threatening illness right now? What's just one small phrase that you would like to share with them? This is Alok speaking. I'm going to keep it short. Know that there are over 300 different types of cancers, and in each one, there's so many different types. So none of them are the same. So you want to listen to your healthcare team, your doctors, and figure it out, research it. There's always different types of plans that you can get through, and you can get through it. And just remember, don't tell people that you beat cancer, you're cancer free, because it can always come back in 5 years, in 10 years, maybe 25 years down the line. And that's why we have to keep going. My life is pretty much on hold, and it has been for the past 5 years, but now I'm trying to get back to living and enjoying and all of these things. So that's something to look forward to.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Maureen? Yes. One statement I would say, a few years ago, I had found out, well, of course, I started getting mammograms when I was 35 years old. Due to my cancer history, I started early, but typically women start getting mammograms at 40 and up. But I got it at 35, and then at 37, they found that they warned me. And I got scared when they were warning me about something. In that moment, I almost overreacted, but I had to calm myself. I looked back at all of my accomplishments and I said, it's going to be okay. So if anything comes up, if cancer shows up in the breast or wherever, I'm not going to overreact. You have to remember that you have a support system. And I don't have children. That's a different story. If you have children, it's a different experience. I happen to not. So if something comes up, I'm going to face it again. And later I found out it wasn't anything major, luckily. But you have to think twice and not jump to conclusions. You have to focus on your priorities in your life, the people in your life you want to pay attention to, the things in your life you really want to accomplish. And I know you have to have a good doctor, and I had a good doctor, and I had a good family, but you just try to prepare for whatever comes up in your life. Don't hyperventilate. Take a deep breath. I know it's normal to try to overreact, but take a moment to sit and think and
Yes.
breathe. And then later, you can start accepting it. It's not just one person, anyone could get it, no matter what. In my case, it's only a 20% chance of that happening. And luckily, it did go into remission. If it comes back, I'll prepare for that accordingly.
It's good advice to just sit and breathe. Take the time to calm down and think about it. It's great advice. Thank you. Kat, this is Kat. My advice, I would say, I hate it when people say, "Oh, you got this." You got this. Because of course I got this. I mean, I would be fighting this alone. And yeah, I love to have support, but I always tell people it's mind over body. You got to tell your mind that you could beat it. It's the only way. It's the only thing you can do. The other thing that I could say is to stop listening. I would tell you, just don't don't Google it. All right, don't, because there are a lot of negativity and a lot of things out there that's going to scare you. So listen to other people who've had cancer, and they can help you through it. They could give you good advice. Go to a doctor. I wish I had listened to my cousin who told me to go to NYU. But instead, I went to Brooklyn and they made many mistakes. I had a lot of problems over there. So it's very important that you're comfortable with the doctor and the nurse, the systems. Make sure you like everything so you don't have to think like it's a soldier. You're a soldier going to a war to defeat this. You're going to have to think that way. You're going to have to think that I am a soldier. I can beat you. It's so important to think positively through this.
Wow, thank you. I feel very touched that the three of you have shared your journey and you have recovered. Thank you all for sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here. This is Kat.
Of course, it's a very important topic to discuss.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's Melanie.